We gotta go.
We've been down a while. You make it feel like home.
Touchdown, Ravens. We're all even at 25.
We go into overtime.
Lamar is just dialed in.
Touchdown, furious comeback.
It's one of the greatest performances I've ever seen.
Welcome to NFL Live, presented by KFC. So Lamar Jackson put his cape on again, didn't he, last night? What a performance by the Ravens QB on Monday Night Football, winning again. Coming soon, the reason someone here is calling Lamar MVP. Plus, we're going to talk about the Cardinals and their success, but not a whole lot about Kyler Murray. Marcus Spears is vibing. You saw Mina Kimes. Ryan Clark is here, and Dan Orlovsky. Dan, the camera's back there. Look at it. It's back there. Say hi. All right. Adam Schefter is joining us in moments. But, guys, we begin with a story that broke during Monday Night Football last night, and that is where we'll start. Jon Gruden has resigned as the head coach of the Raiders. This after the New York Times reported that he used misogynistic and anti-gay language in numerous emails during a 7-year period that ended in 2018. The Times story came after Adam Schefter's report that the NFL had sent the Raiders additional Gruden emails to review on top of the one that surfaced last week with racist comments directed at D. Smith. Here are the details from the Times report. In one of those emails, he called NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell an anti-gay slur. In another email, he said that Goodell should not have pressured Jeff Fisher, then the coach of the Rams, to draft Michael Sam, a gay player chosen by the team in 2014. Gruden also criticized Goodell and the league for hiring female referees, for trying to reduce concussions. And he said that Eric Reed, a player who had demonstrated during the playing of the national anthem, should be fired. The emails came to light during the NFL's investigation into workplace misconduct with the Washington football team. Let's bring in Adam Schefter here. Adam, what can you tell us about how all of this came to light?
Well, Laura, this was stunning and swift. Quite a fall for Jon Gruden. It really started Friday when the Wall Street Journal reported on the racist trope that John Email sent at one point to the former Red Washington football team executive, Bruce Allen. And this stemmed from an investigation of the workplace environment in Washington in which Jon Gruden was emailing the former executive in Washington, Bruce Allen. And so the league and the investigators combed through all these emails and found the racist trope from Jon Gruden. Over the weekend, the league was waiting to see how the Raiders owner Mark Davis would respond to all this. And he got more and more emails on Friday. And then he allowed Jon Gruden to coach on Sunday. I don't think that sat real well with the NFL. And they dialed up the pressure yesterday. And we saw what happened at about 8 o'clock last night. The New York Times comes up with the story that basically dug up emails that traced over a 7-year period with a slew of slurs, insulting and racist and sexist and homophobic emails that were released to the New York Times. And Jon Gruden met with Mark Davis and turned in his resignation according to Jon Gruden. Rich Bisaccia takes over as the Raiders' interim head coach. And this obviously is a stunning fall from grace from a guy who had an incredibly high profile and was one of the faces of football.
Adam, thanks for the latest there. We've got more from Adam coming later. But, Mina, what does this whole situation say about the NFL right now?
Well, reading the emails or the excerpts, I guess I was struck by a lot of things, obviously the hatefulness, but especially the level of comfort and privilege it must take to put that sort of speech in a work email, right? And we haven't seen the other side of it, but we know they involved Bruce Allen, who was with the Washington football team at the time. And it got me thinking. We talk a lot about the need for more diversity amongst coaches, front office executives, and ownership in the NFL. And sometimes people say, why? Why does it matter so much? This is why it matters, right? This is cronyism, what we're seeing right here. And we can't change people's hearts, can't make them more empathetic, but what we or the NFL can do is change up the makeup of the league. And I think this is just yet another piece of evidence that process needs to accelerate.
Well, I don't necessarily know if it's about the process of the NFL or about the process of society. It's about the process of people. And Mina mentioned the privilege that it must take to put this in the email. Well, if you're John Gruden, why wouldn't you feel that privilege? If you're John Gruden and you've known this has always been your heart, this has always been your thoughts, this has always been your mind, and you have enough people that you can share these exact same thoughts with, that you can put it in a work email, then why do I need to change? If I've continued to be successful, not only in life, but in my career, being this type of man, why would I change? And I think the ultimate privilege was put on display when he was asked about those emails and about what he said about DeMaurice Smith. He said, you know what? I'm not racist and I'm done talking about it. Imagine the privilege of being able to insult someone, to be able to say those type of things and then tell the very people who you need to be explaining these things to that you're not going to talk about it anymore. But that's the privilege that he felt he had his entire life. That's the privilege that's exemplified America as it is. And when you talk about the executive boards, when you talk about the diversity, that lack of diversity are the same type of people he's sending these emails to. And that's why John Gruden now finds himself in this hot water, because it's been exposed to other people.
Yeah, man, look, we sit at this table every Tuesday with different backgrounds, cultures, things that we grew up to believe in and all of that. And the reason why listening to you and Mina is so important is because you get outside of your element. You need to find another way of thinking. And to your point with cronyism, Mina, that's because you get in silos. Like comfort. People that want to be comfortable usually don't attain the level of thought that's needed in order to function in a multicultural society with people with different ideas and views. I was born and raised in Louisiana. Racism was really prevalent. My family raised me to genuinely respect everyone. That's how I was raised, in behind closed doors and in front of their face. And y'all know up here sitting with me, if I got something to say to you, y'all know I'm gonna say it to you. I'm not going to have outside conversations about that. And my last point, the one thing my grandfather taught me, man, growing up in Louisiana, and obviously he experienced Jim Crow era, experienced racism and the things that are going on. And the reason I'm pointing to this, because it didn't seem like the racial trope, the DeMaurice Smith was enough. It should have been.
First off, wait, he was not going to get fired.
100%.
Not at all. Not at all. But my grandfather left me with this, man. And RC, you and I have had many conversations about this. And also, Dan, Mina, we went through all of this when George Floyd happened. We had a lot of tough, hard conversations. The one thing my grandfather always told me, he said, you know what I don't respect, because the KKK was very prevalent in Louisiana and in areas he grew up in.
They wore hoods.
He said, the one thing I don't respect about them is they wear hoods.
They wore hoods.
That they won't show their face and acknowledge who they are as people. And that's how I feel about this John Gruden situation.
So you guys know, like, I texted everybody, I think yesterday, it was like, they got to fire him, right, when everything happened, because I was literally shocked. Candidly, I was shocked when I read everything. And you talk about how your family raised you. I was shocked because John Gruden, in many ways, grew up in the locker room. You know, like the locker room, and we all know, is you're around people that don't look like you, that don't talk like you, that don't come from the same background as you, that think differently and that act differently. And I was shocked that you could still have those thoughts as a grown adult while having spent that much time in a locker room. Today, I've been thinking about Peyton Manning's Hall of Fame speech. And at the end of his speech, he was talking about the preservation of the game of football and moving the game of football forward. And I think the reality for me today was, like, football is a different game today in every way than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's changing. And it's incumbent upon everybody, people from the past of football, present of football, and the future of football, to make sure that there is nothing nor anybody that gets in the way of the growth of the game of football and its impact, right?
Right.
And I'd say this should be a really important learning lesson for everybody that's not only a football coach, but a leader. Stop asking your players to be and or do something that you aren't demanding of yourself to be
100%.
and or do.
I just want to hit on,
100%.
you talked about the future of football and Peyton's comments. All of the people that Gruden insulted in these emails, and there's a lot of them, right? Michael Sam, Eric Reed, by extension, Colin Kaepernick, let's be honest, Sarah Thomas, female referee. Those are all people who have made football better, who have moved the league in the right direction. And for him to say this is just, to me, not only is it so regressive, that is what football needs to get away from, that old style of thinking. And that's why I think it hurts so many people.
I think, and I know you have to talk.
Yeah.
This is actually a blessing. And it's a blessing because I think people felt like we were moving forward in a way to where people and humans like John Gruden no longer existed in locker rooms, existed in buildings, and they do still exist. And so it's a blessing that now this is out. It's a blessing that he's no longer a part of this game because John Grudens breed more John Grudens.
Yeah.
Adam, want to bring you back in for another word.
Well, what's interesting, Laura, is that when the initial story broke on Friday with the racist comment about DeMaurice Smith, there were people who called me and said John Gruden can't continue as Raiders head coach, that this issue will eat at this team and derail the team's season. And it seemed like that was the common thinking amongst a lot of people. The only one it didn't seem to affect was the Raiders owner, Mark Davis. And the more that these emails came in, the more he recognized, just like everybody else initially did on Friday, that he had no choice, that the situation had to go and end the way that it did, but it took more and more emails, which he knew about at the game on Sunday, and why he was so uncomfortable that day, because he knew that this would be a real inflection point for this franchise, and really, ultimately, in the end, he had no choice but to move in this direction.
You know, Adam and everybody, so many times we've heard, oh, you shouldn't be offended by that, and maybe you should have tougher skin. Maybe this should be something that doesn't affect you, when instead we should be asking, why is that offensive to you? What can I do to make sure that that isn't said anymore and that these wrong things are not said? And I would just say that for me, as somebody who has been guilty of standing in these conversations and not saying the right thing, not making someone stop, I think from here on out, we should all operate in a world where we try to be that person that says, this is not okay. Don't enable this type of behavior as much as we can going forward. And every single person is valuable. Doesn't matter where their background is, doesn't matter where they're from or what they do. We're all valuable people. A lot more coming your way on NFL Live, including a live report from the Raiders. We'll have more there. Plus, we're going to get into Lamar Jackson's historic night, an impressive comeback, and the numbers that came with it. Someone says he could be the MVP. Plus, later, Justin Herbert and Mike Williams have been putting on a show. Dan and RC go into the touchscreen. They're going to tell you how they've simplified things in this Chargers offense. That's coming next on NFL in here. Adam, let's take us around the league with the latest injuries, beginning with Trey Lance in San Francisco. What more can you tell us there?
Well, Laura, good thing the 49ers have a bye this week because Trey Lance wouldn't be able to play. So they have the bye week to rest him, and then they play the Colts next week. And by that time, Jimmy Garoppolo should be ready to play for the 49ers. The question is whether Trey Lance will be. But if Garoppolo is ready to go, it looks like Garoppolo could be in line to start against the Indianapolis Colts. As for the Chiefs and their running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the Chiefs officially placed him on injured reserve on Tuesday, which means he will miss a minimum of 3 weeks right now. And I think it could be more than that in the end, but we know he's going to be out that period of time, and so it looks like some more run for Darrell Williams and Jerick McKinnon. And the New York Giants running back Saquon Barkley sprained his ankle. The Giants head coach Joe Judge said he was fortunate that this play worked out the way that it did, that they felt a quote-unquote sigh of relief, that it could have been worse. It wasn't. Still think Saquon Barkley is slated to miss a little bit of time for the Giants, but not as much as some people feared he might. And Tom Brady, who banged his hand and his finger on Sunday during that win over Miami, was spotted with his hand wrapped up, his thumb wrapped up. They're on a short week in Philadelphia on Thursday night. Now, Brady has said he's going to play. He is expected to play. So we'll see how well a 44-year-old quarterback with a bad hand functions on the road in a very friendly environment in Philadelphia. And one other note from that game, the Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert placed on the reserve COVID-19 list. Looks like he's tested positive, so he will be out and miss Thursday night's game.
Thanks so much, Adam. Let's get back to Monday Night Football. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens hosting the Colts on Monday night in Baltimore. And let's pick it up in the fourth quarter because it really got wild here. Ravens trail 25-9. No problem for Lamar Jackson finding Mark Andrews, Dan.
I mean, you talk about fitting a throw into a tight window, sick throw.
Ravens start to get going. Amina's blowing kisses in the air right now. I mean, the beauty of this. Come on.
The patience in the pocket, allowing Andrews to work, find a window was great.
All right, so Blankenship was a story of this game and ended up missing there again as well. That was blocked. But either way, you saw a great play by Calais Campbell. Marcus, you like that one. Let's move on here. We see Lamar Jackson with tons of time.
Hang, just hang in the pocket, no rush. They tapped out the D-line.
With the handshake. How about the two-point attempt?
No, this was like strictly playmaking. I'm just going to attack the line of scrimmage. Oh, here's Andrews.
Okay, so Blankenship with another opportunity. And this one, cover your eyes. It's no good if you're a fan of kickers. That was kind of the theme of the entire weekend headed into Monday. Now we go to overtime. Lamar Jackson loves it. Ravens win the toss, get the ball to start OT. 2nd and goal right here. Jackson with the pump fake. How about Hollywood Brown?
It's a great job by Hollywood. I've been tough on Hollywood. The uncover there behind the linebacker, special.
Ravens come all the way back to win 31-25 in overtime. It was quite the historic night for Lamar Jackson. He completed 86% of his passes, the highest by a player with 40 attempts in a game in NFL history. Finished the game with 442 pass yards, which is not only a career high, but a Ravens single-game franchise record. You know they like their records. And maybe most impressive was the comeback itself, leading the Ravens back from the 19-point deficit, the largest comeback of his standout young career. When he interviewed with Lisa Salters after the game, you could tell he was just so tired. He was exhausted with the entire thing.
Miss Lisa.
I love when he does that. Lamar, national treasure. Dan, what stood out to you about his performance last night?
I think it's the greatest game I've ever seen Lamar play. I really think people need to understand, if Lamar was playing great, they would be 2-3. They're 4-1. I mean, he's playing absolutely out of his mind with all the injuries. Now, I like that first, you saw anticipation throws. That is evolving the pass game. You saw pocket ownership, evolving the pass game. But then there was a moment in the second half where he's like, I'm turning this into backyard football. Like, there was the moment where he said, it's going to be backyard football. The thing that was impressive to me was a lot of times when quarterbacks turn it into backyard football and they're running around, one, they make mistakes. That did not happen. Or two, they stop being passers. That did not happen. He was moving around, making plays with his feet, but kept his eyes downfield. The most impressive aspect of it to me was the situational discipline. Like, he made all those plays running around, but down like in that inside the 6-yard line area, hung in the pocket, hung in the pocket, let the guys open up. I can't imagine how hard it is to make all those plays with my feet and then the situational discipline to understand I've got to sit in the pocket and bounce and bounce and bounce and let guys open up. He did it 4 different times at the end of the game. That was the most impressive aspect of the game and the performance for me.
Yeah, with that knowledge that you can probably get 5 on the ground because you're Lamar Jackson, but the patience to wait for 10 when you need it. I got to give credit where credit's due. What did you say before the game about Lamar Jackson?
I said Lamar needed to be in the MVP conversation.
There we go.
And how do we all feel now?
Whoa.
I feel like he is the MVP, and here's why.
Through nice to me on television.
Here's why. MVP is about value. I think Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott are playing at an incredibly high level right now. But in terms of pure value to your football team, it doesn't compare. The Ravens put up 523 yards of offense last night. Lamar Jackson was responsible for 504 of those yards.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's just ridiculous what he's doing.
It's high school.
You spoke about his progression as a passer. I was incredibly impressed by the play from the pocket, the poise he showed. And I also saw something, or I've seen something that makes me excited also for the Ravens going forward. Lamar Jackson has been incredible over the middle of the field. Mark Andrews basically lives in the seam, right? We saw that last night. Where he has struggled at times in the past is throwing outside the numbers. This year there's been a lot of improvement on that front. And they get Rashad Bateman back, hopefully next week. So, I mean, he's only going to get better.
Yeah, listening to both of y'all, I think about one of the most disappointing moments in my fandom. It was when Antonio Tarver knocked out Roy Jones Jr. And before he knocked him out, you know what he kept asking? What's the excuse now, Roy? And that's exactly how I feel if I'm Lamar. What's the excuse now? What's the next step? What's the next invisible barrier that actually doesn't exist that you're going to put in front of me that I have to get over in order to prove to you that I'm a good football player? Lamar Jackson is doing it all. And like Mina said, over 500 yards of total offense for Lamar Jackson on a depleted roster, both offensively and defensively. Last night was a performance for Lamar Jackson like I haven't seen from him. And like Mina said earlier when you were speaking, that's saying a lot.
Well, when you digest it, we digest a lot. We watch film a lot, and we've known Lamar Jackson was like overly great for a long time. Here's the thing, though. Like, I want to focus on the Ravens because Lamar Jackson ultimately is trying to win a Super Bowl. And right now, this team is not a Super Bowl type team. All right, Carson Wentz had a phenomenal night. We would be talking about that if Rodrigo Blankenship makes a kick. And I know it's negative. You're supposed to be. Who loves Lamar Jackson more?
Right, yeah.
All right, but the bottom line is this: when you think about what he's doing and shouldering, that is not going to be sustainable to win a championship. And Lamar Jackson has entered that realm of, I got to win a championship.
Yeah.
So eventually he'll get there, but they need to play better as a team.
That's what he keeps saying, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what he wants to do. All right, we got so much more coming your way on NFL Live. Keep it locked right here. Still to come, Mina's going to tell you the play from this season from a rookie quarterback that was the most impressive throw she's seen yet. I'm looking at it right here over in the studio because I just wanted to watch it one more time. All right, I think it's probably Trey Lance. You see him on the screen. But we'll show you the throw and we'll explain why.
Spoiler alert.
They didn't want me to tell a secret. Spoiler alert, we'll be right back on NFL Live. Talking about the Ravens, how about this? Ravens placed guard Ben Cleveland on the injured reserve. He'll miss at least 3 games. But the Ravens now have 16 players on IR. They still found ways to win, and it's all because of Lamar Jackson, as we told you earlier in the show. Something to watch either way. Let's get to Justin Herbert, another quarterback performing at a high level. He was stellar for the Chargers in the fourth quarter on Sunday's win over the Browns. But this seems to be becoming normalcy for the second-year quarterback. This season, Herbert has been much improved late in games, leading the entire league in QBR in the fourth quarter and overtime. But as we get Dan and RC, our little offense versus defense in here, Dan, what did the Chargers do to make this where Herbert and the connection with Williams would allow the Browns never to be right in this game?
Well, Laura, we're already talking about quarterbacks enough, so I'm going to start it off. And the reason the Chargers are leading the AFC West is because of their MVP quarterback, Justin Herbert. And I'm going to let Dan show you a little bit of how he's getting it done.
And it's really because of the third down performance. He continues to answer the bell every third down in critical moments of football games. This bomb to Mike Williams shows up. So, RC, a couple weeks ago, you and I talked about condensed splits, and it was the Henry Ruggs for the Raiders play versus the Steelers. Now, again, I want to give the condensed split to my guy, Mike Williams, because on 3rd and 10, I'm anticipating you playing your quarters coverage, your cover 4. And what I want from my receiver is I want to give him a big post down the field. And when I condense split, I force that corner to play outside leverage towards that post for a big play.
Dan, you're absolutely right. You force the corner to do that, but this is about A.J. Green, the corner. It's also about the safety, Grant Delpit, because what we can do pre-snap, we can communicate. We can communicate and say, zone it, zone it, zone it, zone it. And so now if I'm A.J. Green, I understand that I have a guy inside that can take it. Now, the other thing we can do is lock it, right? And so when you lock A.J. Green, now you have everything vertical by Mike Williams. Grant Delpit, you have everything vertical by number 2, but that puts you in a very tough situation, and he needs to know that this pass is okay. The one over the top for the touchdown is not.
So when I go with my scissors concept, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Mike Williams and I'm going to push him downfield on that big post. Again, I already have outside leverage. And then I'm going to take my inside receiver and make sure that he pushes up and creates that scissor. And I'm telling Justin Herbert, hey man, I've already beaten the corner with my route. That route is already won. You read that safety. And what I want you to do is if that safety plays with flat foot leverage at all or has eyes on number 2, hey man, I already got you to big post. I want you to launch it over his head for a big play.
Now, we talked about the zoning, right? The zoning gives me an opportunity where Grant Delpit is waiting right in the middle and A.J. Green can pass it. Because we didn't do that, Grant Delpit is now focused on Troy Hill. Troy Hill does a great job with the jam, but it also makes Grant Delpit settle his feet. Once he settles his feet and this route gets up the field a little bit more, it gives Mike Williams the clear end zone and the clear opportunity to get to the post.
Yeah, and RC, you mentioned that the contact by Troy Hill. What I like it happens for me as an offense, it's a good thing because you see how my wide receivers are on different levels?
Yeah.
Now it's forcing that guy to make a decision because he's got vision on number 2, like you talked about. And I'm telling Justin Herbert, hey, if he's got vision on number 2, that receiver's already going to win on that post. That is the same thing as having flat feet. The contact actually changes the levels. You see how my one receiver is here and Keenan's 5 yards behind? Now it gives the easy read for the quarterback just to play off the safety.
And so here's the problem for Grant Delpit. I'm waiting and anticipating when Keenan Allen will finally climb on the top of Troy Hill. By the time I do that, Mike Williams is even. And like we always say, if he's even, he's leaving. This is a great job by the offense coordinator, Joe Lombardi. A great job by the execution of Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, but more than anything, Justin Herbert understanding what he's getting defensively.
Condensed splits, big posts, tutties.
Okay. Yeah, Dan got to end it that time. RC with the little fake there starting it. In Herbert's first 10 career games, the Chargers were 1-7 in one-score games. Over his last 10 games, he has a 6-1 record in one-score games. They've been able to get that figured out. Back to the news of last night and today. John Gruden has resigned as the coach of the Raiders. This after the New York Times reported that he used misogynistic and anti-gay language in numerous emails during a 7-year period. The Times story came after Adam Schefter's report that the NFL had sent the Raiders additional Gruden emails to review after the one surfaced last week with a racist comment directed at D. Smith. Our Raiders reporter Paul Gutierrez is joining us now. Paul, what are you hearing about the team reaction to this news?
Not a whole lot, or even publicly, because we're having an off day and it's still behind.
So as you can hear, Paul's having some technical difficulties. We will see if we can get him back momentarily. In the meantime, I believe we will just go ahead and go to break here, and we'll come back on the other side with Paul if we can get him back. Keep it locked right here on NFL Live. We're getting to the Bears coming up a little bit later. Justin Fields got his first career win with the defense doing its thing. The Bears are trending in the right direction. Next up, Dan's going to show you how the Bears are helping his rookie QB.
No good. Kick is on its way. It hits the upright and is no good.
Oh my God, unbelievable. Does anybody want to win this football game? Loves it over the middle, and he's got his man Randall Cobb.
I literally asked him. He's like, I got this. He's like, all right, you got it.
Mason Crosby got it done. Fourth time a charm.
Man, this Bengals defense looked much improved, even though the story of that game was the kickers. But the Bengals defense ranks top 10 in the league in points allowed, efficiency, and pressure percentage. All those same areas, Cincinnati ranked 22nd or worse last season. What an improvement. The free agent addition of Trey Hendrickson has certainly helped too, as he currently ranks 5th in the league in total pressures, tied with Aaron Donald. Let's read and react to a bunch of topics around the league here. RC, I want to start with you. That Bengals defense looked really good versus Rodgers in the loss. Should Cincinnati's locker room feel great about where they are right now, especially coming off of that game?
No, absolutely, because Cincinnati is trying to move past moral victories. Cincinnati has Joe Burrow as a quarterback, a man with the ultimate belief in himself and his teammates. And when you have a game where the Green Bay Packers are basically trying to give it to you, at least Mason Crosby is, you have to capitalize. When you come out the week before and say you are going to make a statement and you're right there, you're right in the fight, you just have to make a few plays in order to win, you have to make those plays, or it's the same old Cincinnati Bengals. You win this game and you're tied with the Baltimore Ravens for the lead in the AFC North. That's not a place we're used to seeing the Cincinnati Bengals after week 5, but you didn't get it done. And the bottom line is, no matter how close, no matter who you're playing, it's about wins and losses, and that's still an L.
Yeah, the Bengals have played 4 games this season decided by 3 points or less. That's the most in the NFL. Are they a playoff team, you think?
I believe they have a chance to be a playoff team, but you got to win games like that, Lord.
Yeah, those close ones. You got to think at some point they're going their way. All right, let's get to Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers. Interesting situation for them, as everyone's been talking about the demise of Big Ben, right? Well, this was a good win over Denver, and Big Ben had 2 touchdowns in this game. He did a lot of nice things. Now, a lot of it had to do with the offense being better as a whole. The O-line performed better. Najee Harris got the run game going, so that helped in a big way. But either way, they got the win over a defense that actually matters. It's a real defense. What do you think about Big Ben at this point in the Steelers offense, the blueprint that we saw against Denver, Marcus?
No doubt. I hit my man Buggy up and I asked him, he's our researcher here, how many attempts did Ben attempt in the first few games? It was 42. Ben threw the ball 25 times this past weekend. Najee Harris rushed for 23 attempts, 122 yards. Coincidence? Hell no. If you can run the football, Ben can play in this system and push the ball downfield. But if you're asking them to throw it 50 times a game, how many times have y'all heard me say that? That is not the formula for winning. So Pittsburgh got on the right track. They rushed for over 100 yards, and their first-round pick paid dividends, and Ben looked better. Coincidence? Hell no.
I'm glad you got that last hell no in there. We got
there.
raspy swagoo today, by the way. I don't know if anyone noticed
Too many
that.
celebrations.
Yeah, well, you were celebrating last night. The 49ers quarterback situation, less than ideal, with Jimmy G dealing with a calf injury. Now rookie Trey Lance has a sprained left knee. That could cause him to miss some time. 49ers coming off another loss, and this time to the Cardinals. Now they sit at the bottom of the competitive NFC West. We did, however, see Lance in his first NFL start. What'd you think, Mina?
I was impressed. This is a good example of a game where you don't want a box score watch because he only completed just over 50% of his passes, had an ugly pick. But if you actually watched the game and then rewatched it, you saw a lot to be excited about. For me, in particular, this pass, he had a couple great passes to Brandon Ayuk, but one laser on the left sideline on the hitch, perfectly placed into the tight window. Great catch by Ayuk as well. But that is the kind of throw that makes you excited about what you've got in Trey Lance, because the guy can run, but he's also got a howitzer attached to his shoulder, and he is getting better every rep. And that's why I think they got to continue playing him, Laura, because he is the future of this organization.
You were calling for them to play him even before last week, even before they had the injury to Jimmy G. You said it was Lance time. Now we saw what that looks like, and it is really exciting. Let's get to another first-round rookie quarterback, Justin Fields, who was finally named QB1 last week in Chicago. The Bears beat the Raiders in large part thanks to stout defense, but Justin Fields played well, showing some toughness to it at times. He got knocked down a few times and really wanted to stay in the game, Dan. Came back even a couple plays after some of those big hits. What do you like about the way that the Bears set him up?
Simplified. You know, you could see that he's playing with a clear mind. That's allowing him to play fast. Not a lot of moments of him holding the football. It looks a lot like Big Ben back in the Steelers. Good defense, good run game, and then make a play at the end of the game. 3rd and 12, 8 guys in coverage. They're going to play a sticks defense. Hook defenders underneath, corners outside, got a deep third. Now that safety's really, he's got to get into that vacancy in the middle of the field between the hashes. Now Justin's got to do a great job of hold with your eyes, hold, back foot in the ground, now drive it to Mooney in that soft space as he drops his hips right at that first down marker. That is all about knowing, anticipation, seeing, and trusting it. Now, if Justin Fields continues to do that, that is great for this Bears organization. I think the reality for them is every single rep, like Trey Lance with Nina mentioning, he gets better and better and better. The one thing you talked about, the hits, realize that these guys are big